Okay, so in this video, we're going to be going through our contract. All right. Well, let's see. Maybe we can turn that down just a little bit. Voices are a little loud in this game. Turn the music down a little bit too, 'cause even though I like the music. All right. Okay, so let's start with the... We're going to do the attach a new part to a satellite in orbit of the moon. So we'll go through a couple of things here. OX4W 3x2 photovoltaic panel. Okay, so let's go ahead and go here and turn the music just down a little bit more. All right. So let's go to this. Let's go to the ship that we're going to be using. Oh wow, that's really ominous. Lazy. I'm lazy. UI spacecraft master. Let's turn the volume down just a tad. All right, let's go here. All right, here's our spacecraft. We are now in the VAB. Yeah, I've got some rather colorful names for some of my craft. All right, which one do we need? We need the Moonlander. I think it was Moon Repair. Yeah, Moon Repair 1. So this is just this is the basic 2 SRB, 1 of the liquid. This is kind of going on the cheap here. Maybe a little second stage here. The important thing is to have enough fuel, and if you want to land this, sometimes I like to cram a bunch of missions into one, so just have an extra fuel, and then have like hydraulic separators. What do they call those things? Hydraulic detachment manifolds, and to throw off the tanks when these are done. So what I usually do is I set the middle tank to not, so that it doesn't use the fuel, it only uses these on the outside. So the rest of the rocket is pretty simple. It's your standard setup. I do have a landing struts on it just in case if I wanted to land somewhere, which I don't really want to do here. So but I'm gonna leave it on because I don't feel like moving him off. So anyways, this is it. So we're gonna go ahead and launch this off. Now, well, before we get to launching, we need to make sure we have an engineer on board, and we have a couple. So and if we're going to be doing a repair job, we need to make sure that that he has the right cargo. So so if we go back to the build, we notice there's a 3 by let's see, what was it, a 3x2, a 4-watt 3x2. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to open this up. This is an inventory for my last job, which I'm going to go ahead and leave that in there actually, because I have another job I need to do. So I have 2 jobs. So we'll just go ahead and throw in the 3x2. Oh, well, looks like we won't be able to do that. So yeah, your inventory is limited. So we'll go with the 3x2. Put that in the inventory. And the basic idea, if you want to end this video early, so that you know, basically you got to get the ship close enough, and then just do an EVA. You don't have to have the part out in the open, so to speak. It just has to be in the inventory of the pod, and your engineer has to be within like pretty close proximity to the capsule, and the capsule has to be really close to the to whatever it is you're repairing or adding a part to. So if you don't want to see the rest of this video, that's the spoiler alert. That's it. That's just the trick. I was looking around and I did not find this answered anywhere, and it wasn't intuitive. I mean, because you see a lot of older videos of basically you see an EVA, he goes over, he opens up, pulls apart directly out of a cargo, and then moves it out. But I think you see this out of like the 1.7, 1.6 versions. And what they did is they just made it to where, well, you just have to have it in the inventory. So, at any rate, this is the ship that I've put together. This thing is not really that complicated. It's, I mean, you've got, here's your middle stage with your, I'm guessing that's a skipper. Yeah, that's a skipper. And then it's this final, this liquid and 2 SRBs. Liquid and the 2 SRBs, the nice little separators right there. I didn't even bother. This is not necessary. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary, unless you just want a nicer, separation of the SRBs. But if you add these little separatrons to your SRBs, you do a little, use the A and D key to move them. Actually, that's probably not the right way to orient them. They gotta be oriented. Ooh, Control Z and delete. So this is the guy we want, and we turn him around so that the nozzle is pointing toward the actual nozzle is pointing toward, because you want these to be to go this way. So, all right, let's go ahead and shut her down. No, let's go ahead and launch it. So we'll go. This will go over several different phases. First, launch. Turn on SAS, and then realize that I forgot to restage my additions. So revert flight. Launch. Okay. These are these little separatons. They should have been up in stage 5 with the separator. They're not supposed to go off. All right. SAS turned on. Go ahead and launch. Give us a little liquid boost to get us off the launch pad. Then cut the engine. And start tilting in a, since we're heading to the moon, it's just a straight up heading east at a heading of 90. Doesn't have to be exact. And start tilting it, 70, 60. Switch over some, watch your apoapsis, the highest point of your orbit. You don't really want it to go past 70. Once it goes past 70 kilometers, you're really kind of wasting fuel. And I usually keep it at a pretty good 45, 50 degrees until I see my SRBs completely burn out. Keep the apoapsis. When you notice it starts, okay, sepratons, oh, that looks pretty good. Turn on RCS. I turn on RCS here. And then let's go ahead and hit our liquid booster. Watch that apoapsis. Start turning it. Yeah, I know it's a bit early to do the gravity turn for some people, but this is where I like to do it. Let's go ahead and have a overview. I like to watch it, the highest point, and then adjust accordingly. For the most part, I want the liquid fuel to burn out before it gets to 60 kilometers or 70. Okay, we're ready for our next stage. And here we go. If it starts to go past the 74, you can do a radial in as you're doing a prograde to extend, have that gravity turn, pull the apoapsis down a little bit. And this trajectory is not really necessary for me to do that. Once I see it go above 70, 71, I like to kind of keep it in the low. Yep, there we go. And go ahead and cut the engines. Now, most of the time I just eyeball it, but you can also add a maneuver here just to get a kind of an idea of how much delta V you're going to need to circularize. And it looks like it's also tells you how long it's going to take for you to do the burn. So we can sit here basically for the next 2 minutes and 53 seconds, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and line up for my vector, which is the blue cursor here on the nav ball, and then just go ahead and warp to the maneuver. Looks like it's drifting. Yeah, that's another problem, is when you're below 70, you have limitations on how much you can time, how fast you can time warp. But that's okay, that limitation's about to go away. Let's go ahead and pull this back. A craft like this really should have its own some extra RCS, but I kind of went on the cheap here. And as long as I'm careful, I usually don't need that much monopropellant. Okay, looks like we're 1 minute. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off RCS because I don't really need it. And stability assist. Line up for that vector. And let's go ahead and, yeah, I really made this more complicated than it should have been. Oh, come on. All right. That's good enough. Press C to full throttle. And periapsis at 75, apoapsis at 77. That's good enough. Okay, now for stage 2. I'm going to go ahead and select the moon as a target. This is actually unnecessary if you've got, if you're on the same plane. The only time you should ever bother doing that is if you're not on the same plane, like if you're going to Minmus or something. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and unset the target. Usually the moon is going to move about, I'd say, about almost an eighth of the distance. But you can experiment by just adding a maneuver. So we'll add one here. Go ahead and do a prograde. There we go. So periapsis. You can do this to where you get your periapsis as close as possible, but I don't think it really matters. I used to make it to where it would be, I would mess around with it to make it as close as I could. But in this case, it's probably not going to be necessary. But we'll go with this. Just remember, the more you use here, the more you're going to have to cancel when you go back over there. So really, it's probably more efficient to do it the other way. We're going to do it this way. Okay, so we got a 55 seconds. Let's go ahead and line up ever so slowly. Turn on RCS to give us a little boost. Line up to our vector. Turn off SAS. So we'll go ahead and turn it off. And then time warp to our next maneuver. Right just before it. So it looks like we're about a minute away. Sorry about the clicks. All right. Good enough. And you can start burning before, as long as you're lined up to the blue vector. So hit Z. And turn on SAS so that it doesn't drift. Keep it on stability assist. You'll notice that blue cursor will start to drift toward the prograde, which is supposed to happen. Go ahead and cut it here, and then kind of Z and X, and then switch over, set your thrust limiter down to about maybe a fifth or less, and then burn the rest till you see that. And then you'll see that our periapsis is at 1.4 million kilometers. So let's go ahead and get that just a little bit closer. There we go. All right, now we're ready to turn everything off and time warp our way to the moon. Set our thrust limiter back up. And here we go. Turn off SAS so that it's unnecessary. Okay. Now let's look at our contract notes. And it looks like we need to look for the Moon CMM Satellite LFG-8 spacecraft, which is going to probably show up as a piece of junk. And I am correct. Okay, so sometimes it shows up as debris, sometimes it shows up as a satellite. I don't know why they picked debris, but go ahead and set that as a target, and ignore all the nonsense that you see for the moment, because your first job will be to circularize. So we'll warp to the periapsis. Time warp. This is good because it looks like we're moving in the same direction as so circularizing will be an easy job rather than us both going in opposite directions, which would be a total minus 180 degrees. All right, so the nice thing about the moon is that it's a small gravity well, so it doesn't take a whole lot of delta V so you don't really need to set up a maneuver. You can if you want, but if you're familiar with it, just turn prograde and burn full throttle. Some people may want to try to do alignment here. I don't think that, yeah, you can combine a couple of maneuvers. I typically like to do them one at a time. So you'll have a descending and an ascending node once you've got your orbit roughly in the same neighborhood as the other one. This one you'd probably do want to set up a maneuvering, calculation, and then go ahead and straighten that out until you see the descending node to be like 0. So let's see if we can do that. 1.8. And then you can do fine tuning over here down in the lower left hand corner. Make sure you put your steps to where you're not jumping in huge, you're not passing the point. What you want is your descending node and your descending node to be within like 0.1 degree. So let's do that's 4. That's 4. Oh, looks like we're close. Okay. Well, that sucks. Okay. That's 3. Sometimes these are a little tricky. I usually stop when I see 0.1 because you can sit there all day and try to, and it's really annoying. You don't really need it to be that exact on this, and not here. If we're longer, like interplanetary, well, within the solar system, you probably want to be a little bit more exact, but here it's not so bad. Okay, so we got 7-second burn time, which is still good enough. If you get like 0.2 with these large engines, you may want to throw your thrust limiter down a little bit, but here I think we're going to be good. So we'll go ahead and warp right up to it. Oh, let me make sure I hit the right one here. Okay, now let's go ahead and turn our ship toward the vector, which is going to be the normal vector. Turn off SAS and time warp to within 34 seconds. There we go. And this one we can just go ahead and let's do a real quick adjustment here. And cut it right there. Alright, so now when you close, you'll see your descending node. Make sure you line it up again. To make fine-tuning adjustments to the orbit, you'll set your thrust limiter down a little bit, and then watch it and do a couple of quick burns. I'm not going to. I love seeing the 0-0, but I'm going to resist. Okay, so we're at the same plane, but our orbits are not overlapped. What needs to be done is we can add a maneuver here. There's a radial in burn that will turn the orbit, rotate it toward, to where it encompasses where it's. So you can see how it rotates it around that point. It'll also kind of make it elliptical if you don't adjust it with the others. So you can just kind of sort of play around and get an idea about what adjustments. You can do more than one adjustment at a time. So we're going to go ahead and close this again. Oh, well, that was fantastic. Let's go ahead and set that as target. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go here. And actually, I'm just going to not bother with the... Let's just try to wing it. Let's see what happens. Alright, so we just warp over here to sort of right there at the intercept point. So let's set our thrust limiter to a little higher. Maybe like half. Okay. So here, intersect 53 seconds. Okay. So let's just go ahead and warp right for it. We're almost like right on top of it. So we're almost there. So that's good enough. Good enough. Do a radial in. Probably should have lined up before I did that, but that's fine. And then since we got our thrust limiter on, we'll just go full throttle and turn the orbit. And there we go. Now we already have an intersect point right over here. But our separation is 11 kilometers, so it's not ideal. So just line up the orbits to where it's almost entirely it's within. So this is what I normally do. And it looked like we may have actually gotten lucky here. So we'll just go ahead and do a prograde burn here and see what happens. I'll go ahead and hit F5. Might as well. We got, see, yeah, there we go. So we have a separation of 6.8. That might work actually. So let's turn the thrust limiter almost all the way down. And hit our M. Let's see if we can do this. Looks like 3.2 kilometers. That's not bad. Okay. Well, you know what? We'll work with that. Usually I like to see a separation of 0.1, but we can always fine tune it on the way. So that's basically just sort of combine two maneuvers into one. One is to synchronize our position in the same orbit. The other is to line up within the same orbit. So we may have actually pulled that off. And so turn off SAS and go ahead and warp all the way around. Because when we get around, both of our ships, this and the debris that we've got to fix, will line up. And then at this point, most of the time, it'll switch automatically to target when you're within a certain distance. But it doesn't always happen. So if it doesn't happen, just click here. Okay. So see what I did there? You can click between orbit, surface, and target. And target gives you these extra little reticles here to kind of indicate, well, this is a vector toward the object, and the other one is the vector away from the object. So we're quite close. So let's go ahead and warp to about here. So we're 41 minutes. So so this would be the 20 minute, and this would be the 10. So let's get close enough. And as you see them kind of converge, you'll see the prograde vector starts to line up with the actual object. Now, right now, the separation, their closest separation is going to be 3.2 kilometers. We want to change that separation point. But first, we want to make sure that that the orbit is. So there are two ways of doing this. One is I think is the risky way, which is what I'm about to do, which is to pull the vector in. The other is to start slowing yourself down and then readjust as needed. So let's see, flip a coin. I don't have a coin, so I'm gonna do the risky method. We'll hit F5. So actually I'm not gonna do the risky method. Let's do it the easy. So turn on SAS, throw on prograde, and then start. Let's get a little closer. So we're within 3 minutes. Okay. so we can start slowing our... And you'll see that it'll push the intersect a little further back. And what you can do is, if you're going in retrograde, you can push the retrograde vector over and shrink that distance. You can see it shrinking. That's because as soon as that retrograde vector goes over the away vector, that means your ship is lined up almost on a collision course, which is fine as long as you're on a very slow collision course. So now we're at point 2. So that's one way to kind of to adjust your intersect point and reduce your separation. The other way is to, at the opposite end, you pull. So on the other end, you push the retrograde vector into the retrograde moving away reticle, whatever you want to call it, indicator. On here, this is the moving toward the object, so you want your prograde to be right over the object. So, but you think of this as kind of pulling. You see how it just pulls the prograde vector, which then gets us lined up for our separation of point 2. We can make this even better. Let's see. Oh. Turns out RCS is actually already affecting our... this is why RCS is kind of... You got to be careful with it. See, now we're at a 0.4. We don't want 0.4. I want to be closer. Okay. So there we go. 0.2. Close enough. So turn off SAS. Warp here. And you can see the orbits are almost completely over on top of each other. But they will be, just as a matter of fact, when you've done these adjustments. So here we've gotten closer. You've noticed the prograde has drifted away. So let's go ahead and pull it back in. Let's turn on SAS so that it doesn't drift. And there we go. And you'll notice the intersect has now gone from 0.2 to 0.1. Okay. There we go. Separation 0, 0. So we're basically on a collision course. So now it's basically just set your retrograde and zero out the delta V between you and the target. So this is the difference. This is your delta V with respect to the target. That's your speed. So we are moving toward the target at 5.5. So moving 5.5 meters per second. So we'll need to zero that out as soon as we get there. And it's not that hard to do. As you can see, we'll need to turn our thrust limiter up just a little bit, just so it can be a little bit more reactive. And as we get closer to the object, you can see we can start zeroing it out. And it doesn't change your separation. So you can zero this out, or you can get as close to the comfortable speed you want, you know. And then when you get close enough, you can zero it out. And at this point, you should be able to see the object that you're moving towards. This is not something I've heard about this. I don't know where I read this, but a level of engineer that will give you a HUD, which will show you the actual ship, so that you don't have to sit here and look for it. Anybody has any ideas, feel free to comment. Okay, so we're almost there. So let's turn off SAS. Let's warp. Looks like we are 1 minute away, so let's put ourselves at 30 seconds away. And let's take a peek and see where the object is. Oh, there it is. Yep. So we're gonna go ahead and wait for it. Can't see it. Yeah, now we can see it. I'll move this guy over here and pin him. So How close are we? We're down to 0.8. Okay. So at this point, I wasn't expecting to have this stage at this point, but but I'm using it anyways, and I don't want to blast it away because it's gonna move. It's gonna move us pretty fast with respect to the object. Nope. There we go. So we can set our dock. We can set our mode to linear as if we're gonna dock, and then turn on RCS, and then we can do a linear translation to bring our prograde vector, and then it's almost just a mini game of moving that prograde vector. But you have to be careful because once you're lined up, then you stop, and then hit Control to back. Ugh. Okay. Well. Yikes. Ugh. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so here's another trick. Oh, damn. Well, it is debris, isn't it? Okay, so he's right next to us. Would have been nice to not hit the object, but you know, you get what you get. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and put Bill out. We're gonna go ahead and set an EVA. And since we're so close to the damn thing, we can, once you're in EVA, go up here and click EVA build mode. Okay. And then before the object goes away, or gets too far away, you should be able to place it. Now, if you can't, that's fine. Go ahead and put it back into the inventory, as you can see here. Reboard the craft and turn the ship toward let's turn it into rotation. Spacebar switches between linear and rotation, by the way. And move our command module closer to the craft that we're trying to install the new part on. It's just moving ever so slowly. Okay, so let's see if we can do this. Alright. EVA. Oh, come on. That's not what you do to EVA. Okay, EVA. Build. Quickly. Oh. See, it's red. Okay, we'll put him back in. This usually isn't this hard for me. Tell you what, let's get rid of this thing. Yeah, we can't detach while we're in an EVA. That's would be very bad. Okay, so I didn't want to have to do this, but this is gonna put us some delta V between us and the satellite, so we'll have to readjust and come back. Okay. So much better. So much better. And this is why you really need extra monopropellant. Additional monopropellant. Because we're down to 6 and it becomes almost impossible. I mean, really just becomes almost impossible to maneuver and dock, to do these kind of maneuvering procedures without it. Because you need it for linear translation, rotation, and stuff like that. And rotation, not so much because you got the reaction wheel for you, but let me just see if I can do this. Let me turn off that. Since we have such... Let's turn our thrust limiter all the way down. And make sure engine is activated. And let's turn off RCS. We'll use reaction control. Hopefully we have enough electric charge, which we do because thanks to those solar panels. Okay. So, thrust limiter. Let's go ahead. We pull. All right. So now we're coming toward it. It's so much easier to do. And now we're going to zero out, or let's set it almost to nothing, because we don't, believe it or not, the actual wash from the inches will push the thing away, so you don't want to do that. See, did you see how that happened? Really frustrating. Okay, now we do now with what little monopropellant we have, very, very tiny amount, we're gonna go ahead and line up, switch to maneuvering, docking mode, switch to linear, spacebar, and then just turn on RCS, and then hit shift to push us. Oh, don't tell me we're out. Why is that not working? Ah, because we don't actually have a jet that points in that direction. That's why. All right, well, we're gonna try to do this the hard way. Let's let go. Come on, come on, come on. Turn on RCS. Let's move him away and to where he's kind of in between the two objects. This is a little tricky. Damn you. No, 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 no. Stop, 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 stop. Okay. So build. Ugh, see, we're not close enough to our command module. Yeah. You can tell I've done a lot of EVAs, right? Get out of build and turn off RCS. This is a bug. It does this thing where basically you're locked into one position. Okay, let's do. Oh, no, 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 oh. This is gonna have to be an outtake. Can never give these videos right. Okay. Let's stop our downward motion. Stop, stop, stop. We're probably running out of monopropellant for this guy too. Nope. Okay, so now he's finally turning. See, he wasn't doing that before. This is a problem. I've had this problem before. It's because I really need to be able to maneuver, see behind, to be like almost a first-person perspective. Okay. Board, grab, board. Okay. Let's turn off RCS. Turn off maneuvering. And then do a quick pop. It'd almost be better just having the grabber. And that way, the ship would always be right next to you, and then you could just jump out. I didn't even think about that. So, come on. Does it really take that much to get this thing to move 1.1 meters per second? Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and do this while it's moving toward us. So if we work fast, we can do this right. All right, there we go. So as it's coming towards you, come on. No, that didn't attach. Did it attach? Nope. Okay, so it's getting closer. There we go. Okay, it's not perfect, but notice it stopped the movement, the motion. So next time we'll use the grabber. So now we've attached our new part to the satellite. We still don't have control over it. At least I don't think so. Let's see. Let's do EVA report. No, we can't do any. We've already done all that science crap. Let's go ahead and reboard. Now our piece of junk has another piece of junk attached to it, and we can't control it. So he's not. It's not. It's just a. This is just an empty mission for nothing. Anyways, that's it. Attach a new part to the satellite. And we got more than enough Delta V to get home. By the way, we have this reserve fuel that gets us an extra 24 or 27. So if we wanted to, we could actually go and land on the moon, do some science, or not, because I didn't bring any scientific equipment, then take off from the moon, or maybe even service another satellite. Anyways, probably fulfill some additional contracts. I got enough Delta V probably to take care of some of these some of this research stuff. Yeah, we got a lot of work to do. Anyways, I hope this is helpful. I'm sorry for the length of the video and for the outtakes. Talk to you later. Later, Gators.